Thanks for tuning into another episode of the Inviting Shift podcast. Today's question is, are you nice or are you kind? It's a question I've been asking my clients lately because nice is holding them back in so many ways, and not just in a boardroom or professionally. It's about living our values and our truth instead of meeting other people's expectations or becoming a mat for people to walk all over. I'm your host, Christina Smith, and I want you to embrace your authentic confidence and feel good about how you show up. I'm a life coach that helps you step into the life that you truly want, even if you don't know what that looks like right now. Today, we're going to talk about nice versus kind. So if you know me, you know I need a real good definition so I can see the clarity in the words that we're using. So I've defined both nice and kind. Here's nice: pleasing, agreeable, delightful. Kind: having, showing, or proceeding from benevolence. Benevolence, if I can get that word right. On the surface, don't we want to be both? Don't we want to be pleasing, agreeable, delightful, having, showing, or proceeding from benevolence? Of course we do. We like to be both those kinds of people. But there's a huge difference in the two of them. Nice is about being pleasing, agreeable, delightful to others. Kind is about coming from a good place, from us, goodness from us. So imagine if you can see these in your head. Nice is about how we please and how we meet the expectations of others. Kindness is about how we show up from our own good truth. We've probably been on both sides of nice and kind. In fact, there might be some people that you're nice with and some people that you're kind with. Nice can be a mask that we put on to please others. Kindness comes from our own knowledge of benevolence and intentional living. First, I want to tell you, if you feel like you lean on the side of nice, it's completely normal. It's actually part of your programming. We are taught to be nice, right? What do we say to little kids? Good girl, good boy. And what does that mean? They are meeting our expectations of behavior. Bad boy, bad girl, you are not meeting my expectations. You are not behaving the way that I expect you to. So it's bad not to please others, and it's good to please others. That is our programming. We're taught to please others. If others are happy, then we should automatically be happy too. But I don't know about you, that's not how it's always worked for me. There have been times, obviously, where I have pleased others and I have felt fake. I have felt like I put on a mask. I felt like I did not show up as me. I showed up as who they expected me to be. And then, when I got older, someone asked me, what did I truly want? Well, how would I ever know that if my only goal in life was to please other people? I didn't have to ever think about what I wanted or how I wanted to show up. I just had to put on that mask and show up the way that I thought other people expected me to. Nice is a mask. It doesn't teach us how to tune into our own wisdom. It teaches us how to meet other people's expectations, whether that's a family, a culture, a group, whatever. It feels like an act, and we often can agree to things that we don't even believe. Like a friend of mine that was having a conversation with a service person in his home. I overheard this person saying all kinds of political stuff that my friend just would not have agreed with. I mean, not just a disagreement, but he was listening to stuff that he was completely against. Yet, all I heard from the other room was, yes, yeah. It sounded like he agreed with this service person. After they left, I asked about it. Why didn't you speak your truth? And he said, I was just trying to be nice and I couldn't figure out why someone I didn't know would be telling me all this stuff. And I just wanted to bite my tongue and get through it. Mainly because he's a nice guy, right? But now, if this other guy sees him out in the world, he assumes that this guy also agrees. Are there times where agreeing is better? Look, I'm not saying that we should speak our truth every time. I have a serious justice and fighter in me, so I know I will speak up often. My goal, though, is to speak when there is a safety issue or if someone needs me to agree with them when I don't. Have you ever had that? Someone who's like, you agree, right? You agree, and you really don't. If someone just speaks their truth and isn't asking me to agree, I can hold space for it as long as I don't think there's a true safety concern. If they're just giving me their opinion and not asking me to agree with it, we each get to discern when we want to take off our mask or when we want to put it on. In fact, I will share with you at the end a few times where this gets tricky. I have to know what I'm investing in time and energy and know whether it's worth it for me to say something. I just don't want the fear of saying something to be the thing that stops me from saying something. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I want to make sure that you know I have not always gotten it right. In fact, I've bit my tongue when I've been angry or even disgusted because I didn't want to start an argument and I wanted people to like me. But what I've found is that when I hold my truth, it builds up and I start feeling fake or like who I truly am wouldn't be accepted, which translated that I would not be loved or accepted if I spoke my truth. So instead, I would just get angry that people were doing and saying things that seemed unacceptable to me. While I know I don't control people, I do want to be able to stand up to people when I think that they are being disrespectful or unsafe. When I would do nothing, that anger stayed with me. It's not about the other person learning a lesson. It's about me feeling free to speak up. I was really angry at me because I know terrible things can happen if we don't speak up and speak our truth. I realized also that over time that if I can't be who I am, it feels icky and I don't even want to show up for others. I start isolating instead of finding the people that jive with me or can support me. There is this recent time where I think I actually handled it very well. I was in physical therapy and I had been there with the same trainer for about 2 months. And during one of the very last sessions I had with her, she started talking to me about bias training that she had had. And she told me that bias was a load of crap and went on and on and on. And she said a lot of things that came across to me as racist and classist. My first instinct was, don't say anything, Christina. Mainly because she was manipulating the muscles at my back at the same time and, didn't want to upset her while she could hurt me, right? Do I say something while she can hurt me? How can I speak up without the anger that was building up in my belly? So I only said, I don't see it that way. I've done a lot of those trainings in that area and I have a different perspective. If you're open to having a conversation about it, I'm okay with that. Otherwise, it may not be wise to bring up these subjects with people you don't know. Of course, she ended up changing the subject, which was completely fine with me. Here's the thing. If I had said nothing, I would have been fuming when I left, probably even shaking with emotion. Then I would have filled out the customer survey with lots of complaints that I don't even know would actually track back to the right person. I mean, I still did the survey, of course. I just didn't have the emotional charge behind it because I was kind and I spoke my truth. Being nice is about fitting in. It's about showing up as other people expect you to. Being kind is speaking your truth with compassion. If you feel like you are alone or different than everyone else, you might find that you are often being nice, not kind. Here's the other thing, probably the most important part to me. I don't trust nice people. I don't know what they actually think or what they actually want or who they actually are. They are just telling me and showing up the way that they think I want to see them. While my ego may love that, I get all kinds of red flags that pop up because I don't know that person, only the version they think I want to see. And to me, that feels icky. I can't depend on them to be who they are because it all depends on what they are projecting I want to hear. I don't really get to know the person. If I can't really get to know the person, I have a hard time trusting them because their niceness can turn at any moment. These are also often the people who will talk behind your back because being nice to someone else may mean putting on that mask of gossip. So I just don't trust people who are being nice just to be nice. Of course, you're listening to someone who hasn't leaned into nice since way back in my bartender days, and that's only because I got paid to be nice and fit in. I've always tended to lean into the blunt truth. One of my best friends even called me abrasive at one time. Yet, she's still my bestie. Why? Because she knows she can always trust me to tell her my truth, whether I think she'll like it or not. Of course, today I say it with kindness and compassion, so not so abrasive now, but that's a skill I had to learn over time. At first, my abrasiveness was my rebellion to that niceness that I needed in high school. But today, it is a way that I have refined so that I can speak it with compassion and kindness. The steadfastness of being in our truth is so much easier to predict than the one that goes with the crowd or does what is expected. It then depends on who is around, right? And it reminds me of a lot of my niceness in high school. So before I became abrasive, and probably the reason I became a little bit more abrasive is that I went to 3 or 4 different high schools. I saw one twice, but we moved 3 times, and I always felt like I had to be nice to fit in with the crowd. And in high school, fitting in with a crowd was really important because being on your own kind of left you as a target, is what I learned. So I had all these different friends from different schools. Some were into heavy metal, some groups were into pop, some were theater junkies, some were athletes. When I was out with friends and ran into different friends from another school, no one understood it. Friend groups were safety to me, but I had to behave differently with each in order to feel accepted. High school was about survival, though. Now that I'm grown and even in my 20s, I got real tired of figuring out who each person wanted me to be, which is why I've always landed and defaulted back to my blunt truth. Like I said, I had a friend who called me abrasive, but she is still my friend because I am honest and she knows that I'll always tell her my honest truth. I will not tell her what it is that I think she wants to hear. I want honest people in my life. If I'm making a hot mess of my life, I want my friends to be kind, not nice. I want them to tell me what they are seeing. I get to decide if a change needs to happen, but I don't even get that chance if people are being nice and no one is telling me about the things that everyone else can see but me. Now, you might be wondering, how do I know if I'm leaning on nice rather than being kind? Well, there's a few ways of feeling it out, right? One is that we know when we're putting that mask on. Most of us know we're putting on that fake smile. We're saying things to people that we don't really mean, right? We know what it feels like to put a mask on for other people, to pretend like, oh, let me just feel like I'm hiding bits of myself. Another way that we recognize it is that we're saying things that we don't necessarily agree with in order to fit in. We might be saying in high school, it might have been like, oh yeah, I know that band. And of course, I did not know that band. And in high school, for me, there was no searching the internet for that, for more information. So we might be saying things that we don't really know or mean because we're trying to fit in. We often have an inner conflict because we want to say something and we fear saying something, or we want to act silly, but we fear acting silly because other people might not like it. We often go feeling unseen and unheard because we've never actually put our truth out there. We've just put the nice smiling mask on. We often feel like people wouldn't like us if we said and acted the way that we wanted to, that we feel unaccepted for who we truly are. Here's a big clue. If you are not great at holding boundaries, setting or holding boundaries, niceness is going to be your biggest problem there, because we don't want to seem mean or seem like we're being restrictive with people that we love. And yet boundaries are part of our own inner wisdom. They are part of us that says, this is what I'm willing to accept. This is not what I'm willing to accept. And so if we don't have boundaries, we're often showing up just as nice people. We often feel a lot of inner conflict when we're around other people. So if any of those things seem familiar, I want you to think about how can we step into more kindness rather than niceness. This podcast is brought to you by Christina Smith Coaching, and today I wanted to offer you a superpower quiz. So if you are wondering where all your gifts and strengths are, I have an archetype quiz for you to take in just 45 seconds, and you'll find out where are your superpowers and your archetypes, and maybe which ones might need a little bit more support, so that you can learn more about yourself, see how you're showing up in life, and choose more intentionally how you would like to show up in life. Take the quiz now. Here we go. Are we ready? I want you to give yourself permission to be different. This could be the very, very first struggle that some of us have, is to give ourselves permission to be different. Not bad, not wrong, just different. That there's a lot of ways that we can show up that are all good, beautiful, wonderful ways of showing up, but that it can look different than how you're programmed for it to look like. And then I want you to get clear on how you want to show up. Like, even if everything went wrong and other people didn't like my truth, I would still be proud of how I showed up. Because remember that other people's feelings and reactions are not our responsibility. So we'll talk about that more in a second. But here's the 3 steps that I really highly recommend. 1, figure out what is most important to you. And you can go back to episode 1, where we have a whole worksheet to figure out what is most important to me. What are my intentions? How do I manifest confidence or whatever? Might be that what is most important to you is authenticity, love, kindness, fairness, justice, right? Anything that you feel highly connected to and motivated to feel in your life. The second part is to make that your intention. So if your goal or your ending feeling, how I would feel if everything turned out exactly how I wanted it to, well, how would I feel? That's the first one. Authenticity, love, compassion, fairness, justice, whatever that thing is. And then make that your intention. So authenticity, love, compassion, kindness, fairness, justice. Pick 3 to 5 at most, and then make that your intention and let those words guide you. So every day we're going to show up in authenticity. If we're seeking love, acceptance, and compassion, we show up with love, acceptance, and compassion for ourselves and for others. If you do this, even if you aren't accepted, then you can still feel proud that you showed up the way you wanted to. Not everyone is going to be on board with your truth, but we're not here to connect with everyone. We're not here to inspire or please everyone. We are here to make sure that we are showing up with the best intentions. Does that make sense? I hope so. And then number 3, when you need to speak your truth, speak it with kindness. Check your emotion, because emotion can get us into a reactive mode that takes us out of our intentions and back to those icky defaults that we're not that proud of. We need to calm our emotions first. And then we can ensure that we're seeing the big picture. Ask yourself what you really want out of this interaction first, or our emotional reaction can take it away from what we actually want and lead us back to ego and defending. So recognize what you want rather than reacting, and then figure out how you can say it kindly. So often we have to take some breaths and then just ask, what is it that I actually want out of this conversation right now? Right? And so that we don't have to react from anger or sadness or our justice fighter, which usually happens to us. And when we're reacting from emotion, we're so much more likely to come from that wounded child part of us rather than that grown adult of us. And this is going to feel tricky. I mean, mainly because we are feeling emotion and a lot of us want to shut it down or blow it up. But feelings don't have to control us that way, and disagreements don't have to be big blow-ups. Some of us don't know that information. Just because we're angry doesn't mean we have to scream or defend or get aggressive. Anger doesn't have to be scary. It can just be a disagreement, and it's okay to have different points of view. We don't change other people's minds by getting angry or screaming. In my coaching program, Confident, Connected, and Impactful, in these small groups that I have, this is just the work that many are doing. Learning to be with emotions without the fear of the feelings. Some are even now more advanced and looking for the message under the feelings so that we can be more empowered to manage them in good ways, not just slapping some positivity or gratitude on them, but bringing them in and being able to be with them and see them as wisdom instead. And there's so much wisdom in our feelings. I have a warning for you about being kind. Look, not everyone wants to hear our truth. We see these people every day, often on Facebook. We all have at least one acquaintance that wants to be a victim. I, myself, have been stuck in victimhood before. It was at a time in my life that was really, really hard, and I didn't want to own that I was part of my own suffering. My choices or lack of them, my reacting from emotion and then blaming my actions on other people or circumstances. When we are deep into victim, sometimes we're unwilling to listen to other people's perspectives. We don't want to admit that we are the cause of our own suffering. It's frustrating to watch on the outside because we know if that person could just give themselves permission to see the whole picture or new perspectives or just accept bits of themselves, their whole life could change. And yet we are powerless to do anything about it. In fact, this happened to me just a few weeks ago, and it's super frustrating to want to show someone the way when they clearly have no interest in hearing anything different from what they think right now. We can only offer the light. They have to be ready to see what's there. So my point is, not everyone is going to hear what you want to offer. Not even if you've been coaching for 9 years, 20 years, 30 years. They may not be in a place to hear your truth, but their reaction isn't your responsibility. Your responsibility is that you showed up the way that you wanted to, and that you showed up in a way that you truly feel good about. So if you haven't set your intentions to manifest the confidence or anything else, speaking your truth, whatever it is that you want to manifest, however it is that you want to show up in the world, I really invite you to go back to episode 1. And it's going to talk about the steps to manifesting this life that you truly want, whether you want confidence, compassion, authenticity, love, justice, fairness, whatever it is, you can manifest it yourself. And in episode 1, if you go to the description, you will also find a link to a worksheet that can help walk you through it so that you can start showing up intentionally and intentionally living your life. There are also going to be people that swear by people pleasing. For them, it's become their identity, and it was such an important identity that they cannot see the ways in which people pleasing may actually be hurting what it is that they really truly want in their life. It's okay. They fear dropping the niceness. They'll have no purpose, no direction, like they wouldn't know how to act. But we all do. Underneath, we all want to feel certain things. That's our own beautiful gold, our own unique, wonderful goals that we have in our lives, the ways that we want to live. That's what intentional living is all about. These are the feelings and values that are most important to us. We each connect to feelings and values differently, so they're all going to be unique to us. If we can focus on what we choose to be most important, what feels most important to us, we can feel good about how we show up, even in our truth, even if other people disagree. So I invite you to be kind over nice today. See how you can see this in your life. Where are you being nice? Where are you being kind? And see how you can shift that so that you can speak more of your truth or feel more solid in your truth, regardless whether you choose to speak up or not. Thanks for joining us today. I hope that you'll consider this concept, draw your own conclusions, and I would love to hear them. Comment or email me and let me know what you think. Hey, one more thing. When we are all more confident and full of self-love, we can act more intentionally and mindfully. What would a world like that look like? I want to know. One way that you can help me with this vision is to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast wherever you listen to it. It helps more than you know, and it's just a few clicks to help me create a more beautiful world. And as always, remember to be gentle with your humanness.